Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host, Paul, joined by Mastertainment. We've just obviously had a massive breaking story the last 24 hours. I'm getting up at 4:30 in the morning to do this. I don't know what time it is for you, but you're looking great.
It's midnight and a half.
Well, that's not too bad. But yeah, I thought we'd just go over the whole Jonathan Majors situation. When I made my video last night, I was thinking, right, they're going to give it a couple of hours before they announce something else. Didn't even give it that. It was literally within the next hour that they announced that Jonathan Majors was out. And then since then, we've had even more news on the developing story. So what was your initial reaction to that? Because I was completely shocked.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, knowing that, Jonathan Majors was going to be this huge part of the MCU, and then for Marvel Studios to be like, all right, we're going to completely change our plans for Avengers 5. And I guess now, internally, they're calling it Avengers 5 and not Kang Dynasty anymore. It's absolutely just mind blowing. And I'm very curious to see how Marvel Studios corrects. I mean, we sort of see with their plan going forward with Loki and the Loki season finale, how they ended things with Victor Timely and all that stuff, and basically Kang not really forming in a lot of timelines. So yeah, I'm very curious to see what Marvel Studios does here, because this is some massive news.
Yeah, Kang Dynasty, I saw someone say, and then they also said, he who does not remain. And I was like, come on, man. But looking at the case, it actually started in March 25th of this year, and they've clearly been sitting on it for a while. I totally didn't realize how long ago it happened, but they have clearly been biding their time and just thinking, we're going to wait for the outcome of the trial. And then they had that news article saved in the drafts and ready to go, because as soon as it hit, man, that report just went out everywhere. Yeah, I'm just kind of still shocked about it. I think the press release was ready. It's got me thinking about phase 4 and 5 in general, and just how much of a disaster that's been, in terms of audience reception. There's been several things that have happened. Unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman passed away, which they weren't planning on. They didn't know that was going to be happening. And yeah, it's just, they've had so much thrown at them, and it just makes me look back at this phase and think, geez, there's been so many different stories that have had to change the direction. And they are still apparently going with Michael Waldron as the script writer for those films. But
right,
yeah, it's kind of all up in the air. I personally think that they should recast Kang. I think there's enough there that they can get someone else in.
absolutely.
Denzel Washington gets thrown around, and I do see a lot of Jonathan Majors in his performances, the way he can be very bombastic and over the top, and he can kind of tone it down and be very serious. I think he could play an older version of Kang, like in an Immortus. Whether he would want to do it, though, is another thing entirely. There's lots of different actors that could come across. Is there anyone that you think could fill the shoes of Kang?
I proposed the name. Was it David Oyelowo or Daniel Oyelowo? I'm butchering his name. I apologize. He was in I think it was in Spooks. And hold on 1 second. I can get his name.
We can edit this. We can pretend you do.
I'm so sorry. Okay, no. No, I was thinking David Oyelowo. He's a really great actor from, I believe, from where you are, from Great Britain, and I think that he would be a fantastic Kang. Denzel Washington's son, the dude that was in Tenet. I feel like he would also be fantastic. But yeah, no, I feel like there's a number of great options that Marvel can do. Outside of recasting Kang, which is I feel like is the best decision, because why not recast Kang? You're in a multiverse narrative. You can easily just write that in the universe and everyone will believe it. So that should be the option. But outside of recasting Kang, are there any other villains that you would like to see Marvel Studios tackle?
I mean, Doctor Doom's the obvious one. I don't know how they're doing Secret Wars without Doctor Doom, but I mean, both versions of Secret Wars, the 80s version, the 2015 version, they're both heavily centered around Doctor Doom. And even when they announced they were tackling those stories, but it was going to be with Kang, I was a bit like, that's a bit strange. So I would like them to see them head in that direction. I've even got a little theory about how they could do it. So you have the Council of Kangs. I'd love to see them open up the powers of where the Beyonder is, steal the powers of the Beyonder, and then Doom comes down, wipes out the whole council, takes the power from himself, and that kind of, in a narrative way, at least sorts out why Kang's not there anymore and leads into Doctor Doom. Whether they're going to
Right.
go that way, I don't know. I don't think they watch this channel. If they do, then I'm in a lot of trouble because I spoiled a lot of their movies. But yeah, that's kind of how I can see things going. Now, it is quite strange because Kang, apparently, according to the reports, wasn't even the original direction that they were going to be heading with things. And from
Oh,
what we heard, Jonathan Majors was so good on Loki that they kind of thought, oh, we can build the phase around him. So it doesn't necessarily feel like Kang was always the plan. Whether they're going to do 2 Avengers movies in the way that they were going to do Kang Dynasty and then Secret Wars is another thing entirely. I actually think if they decide to drop Kang, they should go in a Civil War direction. We have heard rumors that
mm,
Spider-Man 4 is going to be that sort of thing. In Civil War 2, it kind of happens around the Secret Wars time in the
right,
comics as
right.
well. I was thinking, right, and this is, I don't know if they're going to do this because the Marvels didn't perform well, but I was thinking Captain Marvel 3, the way to save that character is to have Captain Marvel 3 be Civil War 2 and then bring in Spider
Ho,
Man or
ho,
someone.
ho.
You know what I mean? I mean, she's a big part of
Yeah,
it in the comments. In case you guys haven't read Civil War 2, it's basically Tony Stark versus Captain Marvel.
right,
They have someone come in who's an Inhuman who can predict the future by having some algorithm built in his head. Spoiler alert on that. But there's 2 sides to it, with one person being like, well, who's Captain Marvel? Who's like, this is a cure to all our problems. We can basically do pre-crime and predict everything that's coming. And Tony
right,
Stark's sort of thinking, well, the crime hasn't happened yet, and we're damning a lot of people. And for example, the Hulk gets killed because of it, because the guy basically has the prediction that the Hulk will eventually destroy everything at some point, which is a totally
right.
fair assumption to make. So yeah,
Yeah, I would say so.
yeah, they kind of go in that direction with it. And I think that could add some real dramatic stakes to Captain Marvel 3 and then lead into maybe a big Avengers Secret Wars 2 event. And it just kind of steers them away from the controversial aspects that are part of this case. Because I think this probably will hang over the MCU for quite a while.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like for sure, for sure. And like I really like that idea of them doing a Civil War 2 scenario now because like they sort of have the seeds of that already established in the MCU because like remember Project Insight from Captain America 2. Like that technology of them like sort of like predicting the future using an algorithm to sort of like predict future criminals. That's already MCU canon. So they could just use that like Zola's algorithm, be like, all right, let's just do Civil War 2 without the need for like the Inhuman guy that can see the future, which is like a really interesting part of that narrative. But like, I really like the Minority Report aspect of Civil War 2 a lot, and like, I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, didn't even realize it was built into the universe, and the heroes are getting to that point now where they're getting hit every other week with some world-ending threat, and yeah, going into that, I also think that obviously the way the Marvels left things, that Avengers
Hmm.
versus X-Men could be a thing coming down the line.
Bro, I feel like that should be like if that's not on Kevin Feige's mind, that should be in his mind immediately right now because Avengers versus X-Men, especially like on the road to Secret Wars, like that I feel like that showdown would sell so many tickets because everyone would want to see the Fox era X-Men against the like modern day Avengers to see who would win. Like that's like I feel like everyone has that conversation, like, you know, it's like that barbershop conversation. It's like, all right, who would win? Like, Wolverine could totally take down, like, you know, the current roster of Avengers. So, like, I feel like that should be the move for Marvel if they're looking to pivot. I apologize. 1 second.
Curse you,
Alexa, stop.
Alexa, you son of
Damn
a
you, Alexa.
bitch.
Alexa, stop. I'm so sorry. I totally forgot to shut that off.
Ruin the video.
Um, but yeah, no, I feel like I totally lost my train of thought. I apologize.
The machine's taken over. That'll be Feige on the other end listening to all our little discussions and writing down little notes right now.
Seriously, hold on 1 second. I set up I set up 2 alarms for 12:30 a.m. and I totally forgot to turn them off. 1 second.
A few moments later.
You know, whatever they decide to do with the future, like I feel like it has to be very much on that multiversal level. So I feel like you need a multiversal villain to sort of take the place of Kang. So I wonder like who they're going to choose for that because
You don't have to feel bad. Your alarm went off, you know. People at my channel, they don't care. Yeah, they don't care about that stuff. So we've had Daniel RPK actually as well just drop a big thing about what he's heard behind the scenes is happening, and he said that Kang Dynasty was set to film in March in the UK, and Waldron had been hired in November to write a new draft. At the time, Majors was still attached to the script, so it was still very much about Kang, and the idea with Waldron coming on board, according to RPK, was to finish what he started with Loki. Now, they said that if he was found not guilty, they would have kept him and gone in that direction, whether there was bad press or not. But just with the verdict, they've been left with no choice. And though they haven't fully decided the next steps, they have decided to let go of Majors at the very least. So, yeah, I can see why they would move away as well, because I think Majors kind of is very memorable, and I think it would hang over that role the entire time, and it might be something that people talk about every time it's brought up. And if you're discussing Kang, he's probably going to get brought up as well. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, how come we had controversy with Jeremy Renner and nothing happened to him? And I think it was purely because of this verdict, and you could see as soon as the press release went out that it was bouncing off the back of that. To be fair to Marvel,
sorry,
like
it went off again. I know, it's so bad.
I've lost my train of thought, but I was going to say something
sorry.
good. It's okay, don't you worry. Any final thoughts?
I think that like they should there's a number of directions that they could potentially take things. I think they could go Red Skull, because we know in What If that like Red Skull was beginning to become more of a multiversal villain with his experiments with the Tesseract and like the weird tentacle creatures. So they can do that. They could do Killmonger Infinity, because I feel like a lot of people love Killmonger and they want him to come back. So like that What If version of Killmonger would be great. But yeah, I feel like, there's a number of options that they could potentially go to. But no, I'm just, it's just it's a very interesting time to be a comic book fan, and it's a very interesting time for Marvel. So like, I'm very interested to see what Kevin Feige ends up doing, and like what they end up announcing in the replacement to Kang Dynasty.
Well, you sound very interested in it. Yeah. It has happened at a very bad time for Marvel, just with the way that interest is in the franchise at the moment. They've obviously just had Secret Invasion earlier in the year, which was their lowest rated show. The Marvels has been their lowest performing MCU movie, and now this on top of it. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if they decided to just be like, we need to just pump the brakes on everything, have Deadpool 3 come out, and then really start to assess where we're going to take things. What If is dropping on Friday, then Echo is after that. We're going to see what happens with those, but yeah, lots of things going down in the future, and thank you for you guys rocking with us. Like I said, it's very late for MT, very early for me. We're kind of meeting halfway. I am planning on doing more of these with you if you're down for it.
Yes.
And yeah, I'd love to just... Because I was like, why haven't we just started doing videos
together
where we talk about stuff? Doesn't make sense. But yeah, good having you on board. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our little talk about what our initial theories are and what could happen. We did kind of want to skirt around the court case. If you want to see a breakdown of that, that's on the channel right now. So yeah, go head over there after this, and huge thank you for watching it. And yeah, thank you MT for joining me. Much love, everyone.
Same. Take it easy, guys.